Take the time you need.
Okay.
Okay. Dad just said, take the time you need, which is a little bit dangerous. I don't work for the company. I'm the last of the six, and I think that's probably a point that my brothers breathe a regular sigh of relief that I didn't work and didn't choose to go work for the company. I'm obviously not going to approach this from what it's like to be inside the business side, because I'm not, but rather, what is it like to be a brother, to be in this family that is, you know, the business was a key and crucial piece of it all, you know, growing up. So I can't give any principles necessarily of what you as a business owner might do or might consider in terms of how to deal with your own kids who may or may not be in the business or want to be in the business. But I do want to just speak to my experience, and there are a couple of key events as I was growing up that were really significant for me. One of them was that we had absolute freedom to choose our own path. I've spoken both with Kevin and Jonathan about this on a couple of different occasions, and you know, Kevin said when Dad asked him to go work with the business, it just wasn't really something that he had thought much about. And I think Jonathan had the same experience. My experience, I was in college. I remember this very specifically. I had come home for a weekend, and my dad and I were out walking in the woods, and it was a great, you know, fall kind of weekend. And I was deciding on what my major was going to be. I had had a bit of experience leading a youth group with the local high school, and so I was thinking in the context of maybe some kind of ministry I would want to go into. However, at that point, you know, I was taking business classes, thinking that maybe, you know, this would come in useful at some point should I ever want to go into the family business, or should I feel the or want to take that opportunity. And as we were talking about it, we stopped walking, and Dad turned and he looked at me, and this was really crucial. He said, "Joel, you need to hear the will of God for your life and go do that." And this was the most liberating thing, where there was no expectation, where if I did go and do missions or do ministry, which was where my heart was, and I was an English major and a history major and a religion major, I packed a lot in, I had the freedom to do that, and there wasn't anything but unmitigated support coming from my parents, and it was so crucial, and that developed. And then, you know, so after college, when it was time to go get a job, I got an offer to go start Young Life, this Christian high school ministry in Cambodia, and I said, "This is where I'm going to go," and they said, "Great, go, enjoy." And then I came back from Cambodia, and I said, "I'm going to go teach high school in inner city Detroit," and they said, "Great, go, you have our blessing." And in the context of there was always the freedom that should I want to pursue a role with the company, that option was there, provided I earn it and be competent and bring my own value to it beyond just being a family member. But the freedom that we had to go choose and hear God and live out our passions has been key. And even though Kevin and Jonathan had eventually have gone into the company, they clearly had that same kind of freedom that I had. And it breeds into a second point. And I'm not totally sure how this happened, but there was a entrepreneurial ethic that was somehow inculcated in us. And I mean, I never had a lemonade stand. I don't think any of us ever had a paper route. I know at one point Kevin had suggested that I go get sticks out of the woods and try and sell them to people for firewood. That lasted about an hour because it was cold out. But somewhere along the way, this happened where, and we came across this maybe a year or two ago, where we said, look, here's what we've kind of done, but this is really the goal, is that every generation be, as much as possible, the first generation. Where you, if at all possible, every generation reinvents itself. And the company that Dad took over from his grandfather looks nothing like what it did in the mid-1960s. He has turned it into something different. And the company that Kevin and Jonathan are running now are already, you can see, new courses charted, and it's going to be significantly different in 20 years than it is now. And they are running their own company. And there's a freedom that comes with that. And I think, I've taught history for quite some time. The Renaissance was this rediscovery of the notion that it is humans acting out God's image when we are creative. That is the image of God. That the first thing that we learn about God is that he is a creative God because he creates the world. That's where Genesis starts. It starts with this creative process. And as we bring our passions to the table and as we create something, that we are in fact very close to God and we are reflecting God's image. And I think that's something that got instilled in us as we were coming up as well, and that this is what they've brought to the table. I want to speak very quickly on just a couple things of a more practical nature. The issue of a family member who's not part of the business, it can get really tricky. And Dad mentioned that there are these emotional and relational issues that happen, certainly within those who are running the business, but also those of us who are outside. And the issue of legacy can be highly emotional. The notion of, I should get to be a part of this business because that's mom or dad's legacy, and that's what they're passing down to us. And if I'm not a part of the business, or if I don't get to be a part of the business, then I won't get to take part in the legacy in the same way. And I've seen that happen before, and it becomes this highly emotional connection, and it's like the business itself is a tangible connection to dad. And that if I don't do that, I'm not really taking part in the same way. And what's been interesting is one of the things that my parents did, and I don't know whether this was intentional thinking in terms of legacy or not, but they started a foundation where they could actively give and be very generous and support ministries and support believers around the world. And they involved us in it. And they involved us in it from a pretty young age, starting really in our high school years, and even long before that, actively discussing it. This is what we're doing. These are the people that we're supporting. This is why we're supporting them, and really having us play a very active role in the foundation to the point where we were in college, we could even start recommending ministries. This is something that I like. I think these guys are doing great work, and we could bring that consideration in. And it was amazing for us because we could actually participate in mom and dad's legacy in a way that perhaps was even more meaningful than the business. Lastly, just the issue of what is the role of one who isn't involved in the business. And it's kind of been said in the same way that Dad doesn't meddle with Kevin and Jonathan and Morrison and how they're running those. It's certainly the role of the sibling not to meddle, recognizing that I have no idea what this business should be. I have no idea what it should look like. I have no idea where it should go. That's up to them, and there's a degree to which the market is going to impact that, and where the market opportunities lies, and recognizing that the opportunity for the next 50 years is going to be very different than what it was the past 50 years. And because those of us who are not actively involved in the ministry have I think, decided the business needs to be the business. The family is the family. The foundation is the foundation, and that's the giving piece. And that's where we can really play out mom and dad's heart and connect with them on that level. It's afforded us a kind of freedom where we can trust Kevin and Jonathan. We delight in what they are doing and the hard work that they put into it and their creativity that they're bringing to it. And it's not something that we need to worry about and we need to mess with and we need to meddle with because we've been able to make the distinction. I want to say one last thing that's completely off topic, but if you'll indulge me a couple minutes. I spent time at University of Michigan getting a master's degree in education, and I saw what the modern academy has become. I started a company after I stopped teaching. I went on to teach for Detroit Public Schools for 7 years, and I continue to see what modern education has become and what the modern academy has become. And I started a company now that works with media, and we work with political media, and we work with publishers to translate or convert their articles into audio. And so I get a front row seat with media and with academia. And I want to say, looking out at this room and seeing all these Christian CEOs who are passionate about Christ and are here because they want to do something meaningful with their companies is so encouraging to me.
Amen.
Because media is so dark and academia is so dark, and the oppression, I'm going to say that word, the oppression that exists in those places is frightening. And you are the vanguard, because there is no one else left. There is no one else who cares about truth and beauty and goodness and righteousness and doing right. They are gone. The agenda is not an agenda of godly, holy things. The agenda is dark, and it might clothe itself in light, but the agenda of academia, the agenda of modern education, the agenda of the media is dark, and there is no one else left. And you are standing on a wall. And you get to create a culture where the things of God and the things of the kingdom are lifted up. And I want to say how cool it is to see this, and how encouraging it is to see this. And I hope you know that what you are doing is so big culturally that you have the power in your company to change culture. Because it's not going to be the media, and it's not going to be the academia. And we can try and we can rail against that and we can try and take that back, and that's all well and good, but it's going to happen in business. And you get to do it, and it's really exciting. Thank you very much.
Well, I knew they'd stir up the pea patch. I just wasn't sure how. We've had to make a lot of adjustments for Joel. Not only did he go to the University of Michigan, he's a Detroit Tiger fan. He's a Detroit Piston fan. But we still love him.